I've spent my whole career studying why families go broke, and I came to find out that one of the top reasons for personal bankruptcies is a health crisis and the medical expenses, even for families with insurance. Last year alone, giant insurance companies sucked $23 billion in profits out of our healthcare system. And that doesn't even include the money that was paid to executives or the money that was spent lobbying Washington. People are paying premiums and deductibles that are through the roof, and this is just unsustainable. Medicare for All transitions us to an America where every family can get the health care they need without fighting insurance companies or being forced into bankruptcy. The system we have now isn't working for our families. Instead, it's working for insurance companies that suck out billions in profits. And it's working for executives who make 6 and 7 and 8-figure salaries. When a system only works for the rich and the powerful, then we need to change the system. And I understand there are a lot of politicians who say, oh, it's just not possible. We can't do it. It's political suicide. What they're really telling you is they just won't fight for it. Well, healthcare is a basic human right, and I fight for basic human rights. And for me, that's what Medicare for All is all about. Healthcare is a basic human right, and that means mental health just as much as physical health. But despite the widespread need, an alarming number of individuals across this country are denied mental health services. This is one of the reasons why I support Medicare for All, which would provide comprehensive health coverage, including for mental health care and substance use treatment for all Americans. During my time in the Senate, I fought to increase access to these critical services. I introduced legislation that would hold insurers accountable for providing adequate mental health benefits. I've also worked to hold the Department of Health and Human Services accountable for improving insurers' compliance with mental health parity laws. But we know that parity in coverage won't help if people can't afford it. And that's why I've led the fight in Congress to increase funding for mental health services and treatment in our communities. I've helped fight off budget cuts and secured an extra $160 million for these programs. Supporting mental health services is also imperative to fighting the opioid epidemic. I have a bill with Representative Cummings, the CARE Act, which invests over $100 billion over 10 years to combat the opioid epidemic, to ensure access to mental health services, and to provide critical services like housing support and medical transportation for the people who need them. This is how we make a change. America's middle class has been hollowed out. I've spent my career getting to the bottom of why the path to economic security has gotten so much tougher and rockier for families, and how that path is even rockier and even tougher for families of color. It's no accident. It's because decisions made in Washington favor the rich and powerful and kick dirt on everyone else. Strengthening America's labor unions will be a central goal of my administration. Unions built America's middle class, and they will rebuild America's middle class. For far too long, a worker's right to unionize has been under attack. That's why I introduced a new law that would ban states from passing so-called right-to-work laws that destroy unions. Our labor laws have also not kept pace with the 21st century economy. My administration would fight for fully portable benefits for everyone. We're going to fight to make sure that all work, full-time, part-time, gig, carries basic prorated benefits, and we need to turn the minimum wage into a living wage. Finally, we need to end the harmful corporate obsession with maximizing shareholder returns at all costs. That's sucked trillions of dollars away from workers. My Accountable Capitalism Act would empower workers at large U.S. corporations to elect at least 40% of their employers' boards of directors. As president, I will fight to ensure that workers have a real seat at the table and that workers get paid enough they can build some real economic security. We can't let the rich and the powerful use hatred and bigotry to divide us. Our movement will be united by the values we share. We're going to rebuild the middle class, but this time we're going to build it for everyone. I've got plans that will substantially narrow the racial wealth gap, including canceling student loan debt and investing at least $50 billion in historically black colleges and universities and minority-serving institutions. But economic justice is not enough. We need racial justice. We need to address the maternal mortality epidemic for black moms and help close the startup capital gap for entrepreneurs of color. And finally, start to address our government's history of racist redlining and tackle some of the core racial injustices in our criminal justice system, like fixing the school-to-prison pipeline and the appropriate use of force, and boost wages for women of color and open up the pathways for the leadership positions they deserve. Finally, I've got a plan to remake our broken immigration system from top to bottom. We'll decriminalize migration and focus enforcement on serious criminal activity. We'll significantly reduce detention, enforce strict standards for remaining in detention facilities, and end ICE contracts with private detention facilities. We'll reject exclusionary policies based on race, religion, and nationality. We'll raise the refugee cap, reinstate TPS and DED protections, protect asylum seekers, and increase foreign aid to address the root causes of migration. We'll reinstate DACA protection for the Dreamers and their families and expand the program while providing a fair and achievable pathway to citizenship. But it's going to take a grassroots movement to make it happen. And I can't imagine getting it done without the NUHW and its grassroots army. So let's get out there together and let's do this.